She said it so casually I almost thought I'd misheard her. It's just 6 weeks, Kyle. I need a break. Me and my boss are heading to the coast. Creative recharge, they're calling it. You know how it is. The room was still, but the air felt sliced open. My ears started ringing, a sharp buzz I couldn't shake. She was standing at the kitchen island, scrolling her phone with one hand, sipping a turmeric smoothie with the other like this was any other Tuesday. Like she hadn't just torched the very idea of trust and left the ashes on the counter for me to clean up. I didn't answer her right away. I just stared. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I was watching her. Really watching. The way she smirked at her reflection in the fridge. The deliberate calm in her voice. She wasn't asking for permission, she was announcing a decision. It's part of the new arrangement, she added, not looking up. You said you'd think about it, remember? About opening things up. Well, I thought. I'm open. I feel great. She felt great. 3 nights earlier, we'd had dinner at a rooftop place she used to say was too bougie for us. She wore red. Talked about art. Laughed like she was 17. That night, she'd held my hand under the table. Said we were finding our spark again. She was lying through her teeth. Lying while squeezing my hand like I was her safety net. Lying while her phone kept lighting up face down on the table. So when she packed, she barely folded anything. Just tossed bikinis, linen shorts, a few of her boss's branded t-shirts into her duffel. She even left behind the necklace I gave her on our 5th anniversary, the one with the tiny engraving inside, "Still choosing you." Left it beside the sink like a receipt. I asked her one thing, is this a work thing or a you two thing? She blinked, then smiled like it was all a big joke. Kyle, you always overthink. You used to be so chill. Chill? That word echoed in my skull like a siren. She left the next morning before dawn. Didn't even wake me. I heard the Uber door slam while I was still pretending to sleep. But I wasn't asleep. I was wide awake. And already planning. Because that night, 3 days before she left, I did something she hadn't counted on. I backed up her phone to my old laptop. She'd left it unlocked in the living room while she showered, humming to herself. So sure of her little empire. I copied everything. The texts. The photos. The notes app where she'd listed things to say if Kyle gets suspicious. I read it all. Every disgusting message she sent him. Every whisper of plans for their retreat. Every compliment he threw at her like she was a new car he was test driving. I read the part where she said he's sweet but boring. I don't think he'd even notice if I was gone 6 months. 6 months. She left for 6 weeks. When she came back, she found a note. And nothing else. But we're not there yet. You need to understand what happened in those 6 weeks. What I did. What she didn't expect. Why she should have looked twice before assuming the house she walked into would still be her home. Because it wasn't. And neither was I. Next part coming, the silence in the house after she left was unnatural. Like a movie set after the cameras stopped rolling. The fridge still buzzed. The clock still ticked. But everything else felt staged, fake, hollow. Even the sunlight didn't look right anymore, too sharp around the edges, like the world had shifted half an inch off its axis and no one else noticed. I didn't go to work that day. Didn't even pretend. I sat at the dining table, the one we bought together from that overpriced rustic shop, and stared at my laptop. I still had the folder open, ASH archive, bold and accusing. Every click felt like peeling skin. There was a voice note she'd sent him, her boss, Derek. It started with a laugh. Her real laugh. Not the polite social one she used with me lately. Then she said, he still doesn't get it. Per guy thinks we're just going for strategy meetings. I mean, God, he still packs my lunch sometimes. I hadn't packed her lunch in months. But once upon a time I did. I used to write notes on napkins, stupid jokes, a heart, just little things. And here she was, using it like a punchline. That day I went through every inch of our house. Not because I needed to, I knew what I was going to do. But I wanted to see it again before it stopped being mine. The books we never finished. The paint samples we never used. The guest room we turned into a creative space that neither of us entered again after the first week. Then I started my project. I didn't just pack up. That would have been too clean. Too kind. I wanted her to feel the outline of my absence like a burn. First, I boxed my essentials. Left behind everything we picked together, the couch she loved, the smart mirror she used every morning, the coffee machine that only made her kind of coffee. I even left the bed. Took the mattress from the guest room instead. She could sleep on memories. Then I moved on to something more precise. I started unsubscribing her from things. Not major ones, just the little comforts. Her yoga class auto-renewal? Gone. Her organic skincare delivery? Cancelled. I went into the streaming accounts and changed all the profiles to mine. Renamed hers Ghost. Reset the passwords. I wasn't trying to hurt her. Not directly. I just wanted to remove the scaffolding she stood on. Let her feel what it's like when the structure's gone. Let her see what she'd really built here. By week 2, I transferred the lease on my co-working space into my name alone and found a sublet downtown. 1 bedroom, high floor, no memories. I told no one. No friends. No family. Just disappeared. On day 15, I got a text from her. Hey, Wi-Fi down again? Can't connect. You reset it. I didn't answer. 2 hours later. Kyle? You see this? Our accounts are weird. My calendar's blank. Still no reply. The last message came late that night. Seriously, what the hell is going on? I turned off notifications. Let her feel it. The unraveling. The subtle freefall. But I wasn't just erasing myself. I was preparing something else. Something precise. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was engineering clarity. Because if she thought she could vanish for 6 weeks and stroll back into our life untouched, she was going to learn what absence actually looks like. And I hadn't even sent the letter yet. That came next. I mailed the letter on day 20. Not a text. Not an email. A real letter. Handwritten. No return address. Just a simple white envelope sealed tight like a vault and sent express to the house I once called home. Writing it took me 4 nights. I didn't start with accusations. That would have been too easy. I started with a thank you. Thank you for showing me what a lie feels like up close. For teaching me that betrayal doesn't always scream, sometimes it just laughs behind your back while borrowing your toothbrush. I kept the tone clinical, surgical. I didn't write it for her feelings. I wrote it for clarity. For truth. I told her I knew everything. The texts. The videos. The trip that wasn't for strategy but for satisfaction. I told her I saw the part where she joked about how emotionally constipated I was to the man who called her his personal distraction. I wrote, I don't blame you for falling out of love. That happens. But I do blame you for staying long enough to use me as camouflage. Then came the real cut. You wanted an open marriage. You opened it. I just walked out the other side. The last paragraph was short. When you return, you'll find the shell of what you left behind. You wanted freedom. Now you have it in full. This house, the furniture, the mirrors, the fridge magnets, the bathroom you love, it's all yours. I've taken nothing except myself. And you can't have that back. I signed only with my first initial. K. No flourish. No closure. 3 days later, she landed back in the city. I didn't have to guess. I got the first call before she even left the airport. She must have assumed I'd be there to pick her up. Delusional. The messages piled up by the hour. Kyle? What the hell is going on? Where are you? This isn't funny. Did you do something to the house? Did someone break in? And then? Are you seriously ghosting me after 10 years? 10 years. Like she just remembered. The call that came next I did pick up, not from her. From our mutual friend, Marcus. He was always neutral, Switzerland incarnate. He said she showed up at his door in tears, claiming I abandoned her and sabotaged her life. She's freaking out, man, Marcus said. She didn't see this coming. No. She wouldn't have. She thought I'd wait. Like I always did. Wait for her to come home and drip-feed me half-truths. She'd built an entire mental version of me, passive, dependable, stuck. She never imagined I'd be the one to vanish first. I told Marcus not to get involved. Then I blocked him too. I was done with echoes from that world. But she wasn't done. She showed up at my office 2 days later. And that's when the confrontation happened, not over the phone, not through letters face to face. And it was nothing like I expected. She walked into my office like she owned the building. No knock, no warning, just a gust of perfume, sunglasses pushed up like a crown, lips pursed as if she was stepping into a courtroom she was sure she'd win. I was standing near the printer when I saw her. Every head in the room turned. She was wearing white, crisp, expensive, calculated. The kind of outfit you wear when you want to look innocent but still powerful. Her eyes locked onto mine like lasers, like she'd been rehearsing her lines the entire flight back. Kyle, she said, sharp and low, we need to talk. Now. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I let the silence press against her like a wall. My coworker Jamie stood frozen with her coffee halfway to her mouth. No one said a word. I'll wait in your office, she added, already turning toward the glass door with my name still stenciled on it, like the world hadn't shifted. She sat in my chair, legs crossed, tapping her nails on the desk. I closed the door slowly behind me, watching her like you'd watch an animal you're not sure is tame. You think this is funny? She snapped. Running away like some ghost in a breakup song? I raised an eyebrow. She scoffed. What is this, Kyle? Some pathetic stunt? A gotcha moment? You leave a note like a teenager and vanish? What, you think this makes you look strong? I stayed quiet. Let her unravel. People are asking questions, she went on, arms flailing now. My parents. Your sister. You made me look like a fool. Now that made me smile. You did that part yourself. Her face twisted, the mask slipped, just a little. So what, you snooped through my phone? You went behind my back. I leaned forward. Is that your defense? That I discovered what you were hiding instead of believing your cover story? She stood up fast. It wasn't like that. You're twisting everything. No, I said. You twisted it. You told me we needed space. Freedom. You framed your affair like it was evolution. Like I was too simple to understand. That trip wasn't about him, she shouted. It was about me. About resetting. You never support me anymore, Kyle. You're always so cold. I stepped closer. Cold? You said I was boring, forgettable. You told him you were pretending to still love me until you figured things out. I read everything. Every word. For the first time, she hesitated. Blinked. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then, you don't get to do this. You don't get to just walk away like you're the victim. I'm not the victim, I said calmly. I'm the exit. She laughed once, bitter and forced. What, and you think you're better now? Because you ghosted me? Because you played your little disappearing act? No, I replied, walking to the door. Because I finally stopped pretending I was still married. She followed me, shouting my name, hissing under her breath not to make a scene. But it was too late. The scene had already happened. And I was done playing my part. She left that building furious, shaking, threatening lawyers, claiming I was emotionally abusive, financially manipulative, not who she thought I was. That part was true. I wasn't. And I still hadn't told her about what I'd done with the joint savings. That was part of the next move. I emptied the account 2 days before she landed. Not out of spite, I didn't take a cent that wasn't mine. We had a shared savings account we both contributed to, but I was the one who managed the budget, paid the bills, handled the long-term planning. I had receipts. Proof. She never even checked the balance. She just assumed I'd keep everything afloat while she played rebel entrepreneur with her creative retreats and midday champagne meetings. So I left her with exactly what she earned. Which in the end wasn't much. I opened a new account. Transferred my share down to the decimal. Left her the rest. The split wasn't generous, but it was accurate. Every dollar accounted for. Every charge labeled. Her Uber rides to his place? Marked. That spa day 2 towns over, which happened to align with a suspicious lull in her texts to me. Highlighted. I printed the statement and dropped it in a plain envelope. No note this time. Just the numbers. Cold, exact, undeniable. The next day, I got a call from her lawyer. Not a divorce attorney, not yet, just a guy she probably found on some podcast about empowered living. He tried to sound calm, polished. Mr. Adams, I'm representing your wife. She's concerned about some irregularities. It seems you've withdrawn. I withdrew what belonged to me, I cut in. Nothing more. Your client should double-check her own messages before accusing someone of theft. He paused. You're admitting to surveillance of her communications? I'm admitting to backing up a phone I paid for on a cloud I maintained in a house I paid rent for. Silence. Then, you realize this could get messy. Oh, I said, we passed messy 3 weeks ago. Now we're just playing cleanup. He didn't call again. But she did. Her voice had changed. No more fire, no more fake rage. Just ice. Measured. Controlled. You've made your point, she said. Very dramatic. Very cinematic. But we're not done. I could hear her pacing. I built that house with you. I made sacrifices. I stayed when I should have left. You think you're the only one who was unhappy? I gave up everything for you. Don't lie, I said. You didn't stay for me. You stayed until something better came along. Or so you thought. That landed. I could hear her breathing shift. Shallow. Sharp. I'm not going to be painted as the villain, she hissed. You're not a saint, Kyle. I never claimed to be, I said. But I also didn't lie, cheat, or script a breakup like a project launch. Click. She hung up. 3 hours later, she started calling my sister. Then my mother. Even my old roommate from college, the one she never liked. She wanted allies. She wanted witnesses. She wanted someone to tell her she was the victim. But no one bit. Not because I asked them not to. I didn't say a word to anyone. They just knew. Because when a person tells enough lies, eventually their voice starts sounding hollow even to the people who once believed them. And while she was scrambling to rewrite the narrative, I was already steps ahead, sitting across from my lawyer, signing papers she didn't know were coming. Because next came the part she really wouldn't see coming. I was about to set her reputation on fire without ever saying a single word in public. I never needed revenge. Not really. That was her game, manipulation dressed up as empowerment, betrayal disguised as freedom. But what I wanted was something different. I wanted exposure. Quiet, clean, undeniable exposure. The kind that doesn't yell. It just leaves the lights on long enough for everyone to see what's been crawling in the dark. She made her living off a persona, this cultivated brand of raw, edgy, confident womanhood. She hosted panels. Ran workshops. Was gearing up to launch a podcast about emotional transparency and intentional living. A walking contradiction, preaching vulnerability while hiding behind rehearsed vulnerability. It wasn't just hypocrisy. It was business. And so I went to the one place she'd never expect me to touch, her platform. I created a single profile. Anonymous. No photo. No drama. Just the facts. The post was titled, "When Your Life Coach is Living a Lie." No names. No direct accusations. Just questions. Screenshots of texts, hers from her own phone. Blurred names but with timestamps that coincided with her public speaking events. A short paragraph about deceit behind curated self-help brands. The irony of preaching loyalty while destroying it in private. Of monetizing healing while simultaneously gutting someone who trusted you. It wasn't even up for an hour before it started gaining traction. I didn't expect the avalanche, but it came fast. People recognized the style. The phrases. The writing tics. Some even noticed the handwriting in a note she had once posted on Instagram, the same handwriting now scrawled on a grocery list in one of the screenshots I'd included. And then the real blow landed. One of her former clients, someone who'd paid thousands for one-on-one transformation coaching, commented under the post. She told me to leave my partner if I felt unseen. Guess I wasn't the only one she was giving that advice to. Within a day, more followed. Quiet stories. Subtle mentions. Nothing slanderous. Just facts. Echoes. Pieces of a puzzle that, once seen together, couldn't be unseen. She tried to do damage control. Posted a story about online trolls and false narratives. A desperate swipe. Her tone was brittle, defensive. People noticed. Some commented with sympathy. Most with suspicion. Meanwhile, I stayed silent. Never commented. Never added more. I didn't need to. Her curated empire was cracking from the inside like a frozen lake in spring. 2 days later, I got a message not from her, but from Derek. The boss. The man she left for her creative retreat. He didn't even say hello. He wrote, "You should have warned me. She's not who I thought she was." And then, we ended things. That made me sit back. He'd ended it. After everything. After 6 weeks of whatever they'd done together, he'd thrown in the towel. Just like that. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She'd lost both of us now, the safe bet and the reckless thrill. And I was just getting started. Because next came the final blow, the one that would end the last illusion she had left about our so-called partnership. She didn't know I'd taken my name off the mortgage. It had been in motion for weeks, filed quietly while she was sunning herself on some coastal balcony, sipping wine beside a man who called me deadweight in one of his messages. She had no idea that while she played house with him in paradise, I was dismantling ours brick by brick with surgical precision. She never paid attention to paperwork. That was always my thing. I handled logistics, she handled aesthetics. I made sure the roof stayed over our heads while she argued about curtain colors. So when the bank processed the documents removing me entirely and shifting the responsibility of the house to her alone, she didn't notice. Until it hit. It landed the same day her podcast platform froze her account. Turns out the anonymous post did more than just poke her image. It triggered a quiet little audit. The sponsors backed out. One by one. Not because of me, I never spoke to them, but because public image is fragile currency and hers had just been downgraded to pennies. That evening she called me. Again. But this time her voice had lost all sharpness. She sounded tired. Cornered. "Kyle," it came out like a sigh. "What are you doing to me?" I almost laughed. "I'm just stepping out of the way. You're the one walking into walls. You left me with everything," she whispered. "The bills, the taxes, the loans, it's all in my name now." I said nothing. "I can't afford this place alone," she added, lower. "You know that. You wanted independence," I said. "Now you have it. You're free. You're in control. Isn't that what you always wanted?" "You're punishing me," she said flatly. "No," I replied. "I'm releasing you. And myself." She stayed quiet for a moment, and then she tried again. Softer. More dangerous. "We could fix this. You and me. If we really talked." There it was. The bait. The subtle manipulator she'd always been, dangling promises like strings she could pull me back with. She was never a screamer. She was a rewriter. A reframer. Her genius wasn't in how loudly she lied, but how convincingly she blurred the truth. I let that silence stretch. Then I asked her one question. "Tell me the truth just once. Did you ever actually plan on coming back?" She hesitated. And then, for the first time since all of this began, she told the truth. "No," she said. There it was. The final crack. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just that one word, and all the illusions we'd built fell in silence. I hung up. Not with anger. Not with pain. But with a clarity so sharp it felt like waking up from a long, fevered dream. It was done. And now, for the first time, I could see what the next chapter looked like, a life that didn't orbit around her gravity anymore. But there was one last move to make. One final, quiet gift before I vanished from her life entirely. She always said the garden was her sanctuary. She'd spend weekends pruning things she didn't understand, planting flowers that didn't match, always in mismatched gloves and an overpriced straw hat. It was never about nature. It was about the idea of nurturing something, controlling it, creating beauty on her terms. She called it our space, but it was never ours. She just liked that I mowed the lawn and paid the landscaper when her half-grown avocado trees died in winter. So I left her a gift there. The only thing I placed intentionally in that house before I vanished. Under the bench she loved to post photos of the one with the fake vintage plaque she ordered online. I buried a small wooden box. Nothing fancy. Just sanded pine with a simple latch. Inside were 5 things. The wedding photo she had cropped for her social media bio but never replaced in the frame on our nightstand. The key to our storage unit, the one she thought I'd forgotten about. The first letter she ever wrote me back when we were still pretending to be real. The last receipt she signed at the hotel she shared with Derek. I found it in her jacket pocket when she got lazy about hiding things. A flash drive. The flash drive was the real weight. It held a compilation, not of revenge, not of exposure, but of memory. Videos. Voice notes. Photos. Every moment I'd captured over 10 years. Her laugh before it became a smirk. Her eyes before they looked through me. The things she said when she was still trying before she rewrote who I was in her own mind. The title of the folder, This Is Who We Were. I left no message. No threat. Just evidence of a story she thought she could erase. I didn't expect her to find it right away. But I knew she would. She always needed to control the narrative and curiosity was her drug. 3 nights later, at 2:17 a.m. she called again. I didn't answer. She texted. You left me a grave in the garden. Then, a minute later. Why did you keep all of this? I didn't reply. I deleted the thread. Changed my number the next morning. I wasn't interested in her reflection anymore. I had already walked past it. But something changed after that. She went quiet. No calls. No emails. The noise dropped to 0. Either the garden broke something in her, or it reminded her that no matter how well you build your version of the past, the truth still blooms where you least expect it. I heard from a mutual friend later that she'd put the house up for sale. The sanctuary had become a mausoleum. Good. Let her start over. Let her feel what it's like to rebuild something without a scaffold to lean on. And me? I was already somewhere else. Somewhere she'd never find me. Not physically. Not emotionally. Not in the pieces she left behind. Because my final move wasn't revenge. It was erasure. And now there was only one thing left to do, say goodbye, not to her, but to who I was when I still believed her. It took me a while to realize I wasn't mourning her, I was mourning the version of myself that stayed. The man who tolerated just enough lies to convince himself they were compromises. The one who edited his own instincts, who second-guessed that gut-deep feeling that something was off every time she came home wearing a smile too wide, her phone too silent. That man? He died quietly in the early days, probably somewhere between the last time she said, I love you, and the first time she didn't look me in the eye when she said it. I spent the next few weeks detangling myself. Not from her, from the ghost of who I had been. The version of me that revolved around her moods, her goals, her spin on reality. I moved through those days like a man returning from war, not with blood on my hands, but with silence in my ears. A strange, blessed quiet. No more tiptoeing. No more decoding subtext. No more apologizing for not being exciting enough for someone who couldn't sit still with her own thoughts. I went to places she never liked. Ate food she used to mock. Booked a weekend retreat, not to reinvent myself, not to find healing, but to breathe. To wake up in a room that didn't smell like her perfume, that didn't echo with the footsteps of someone always preparing to leave. On the second morning of that trip, I opened my laptop, created a new email account, and wrote one final message. Not to her, to myself. Subject, read this if you ever think about going back. In the body, I wrote. She told you it was an open marriage after she'd already opened it without you. She planned a 6-week escape with another man and called it growth. She came back to ashes and called you cruel. She lied to your face and called it a conversation. She watched you unravel and called it weakness. If you miss her, you're not missing her, you're missing the version of her you built in the dark. Don't go back to sleep. I scheduled the email to send to myself 6 months from that day. A built-in reminder in case nostalgia ever tried to paint over reality with a forgiving brush. By the time I returned to the city, it was as if the air had changed. Everything sharper. Brighter. I walked past our old cafe and didn't flinch. I passed a girl with the same haircut she used to wear and felt nothing. I was lighter. Not because I'd shed her. Because I'd stopped carrying the version of love she had sold me wrapped in charm, soaked in deceit. Somewhere out there, she was probably telling a different story. A sadder one. One where she was the misunderstood visionary and I was the cold, controlling anchor who didn't believe in her light. Let her. Let her rewrite it for whatever audience she could still gather. Because the only truth I needed was this. I didn't lose her. I found myself in the space she used to fill with noise. And the man I become? He didn't flinch anymore. But he had one last thing to say. One last page to turn. I didn't plan on sending her anything else. But closure isn't something you find, it's something you create. And mine wasn't going to be dramatic. It wasn't a confrontation, a monologue, or a final burn. It was going to be simple. Controlled. The kind of thing you do not to punish someone, but to let them know with unmistakable clarity that they no longer live in your world. I sent a package. No return address. No note inside. Just one item. A photo. Not from our wedding or our honeymoon or any of the 100 moments she posted to make it look like we were happy. It was from a road trip we took early on, the kind of photo you forget exists until you're packing boxes and find it stuffed in the back of a drawer. In it, I'm laughing, eyes closed, sunburnt, holding a cup of gas station coffee with a stupid grin on my face. She's in the background, blurry, mid-yawn, not posing. Just a slice of something real. Not perfect. Not staged. Honest. On the back of the photo, I wrote 5 words. This was the last time. That was it. The last thread cut. No rage. No bitterness. Just a moment frozen in time, returned to its rightful owner. She could keep the photo. She could burn it. Frame it. Pretend it never existed. It didn't matter. Because the point wasn't what she did with it. The point was that I no longer needed to. And in the months that followed, life filled in the spaces. I moved cities. Got a new job, one that didn't remind me of early dinners and late-night excuses. I started seeing someone. Slowly. Carefully. No labels. Just realness. Quiet conversations. Laughter that wasn't forced. I didn't tell her about the past, not yet. That story belonged to a different man. One I buried under a garden bench and left behind. People ask sometimes, how do you get over something like that? How do you move forward after being played so thoroughly? Here's what I tell them. You stop asking why she did it. The why is a black hole. There's no closure at the bottom of that spiral. Instead, you ask, why did I stay so long? And once you answer that, once you face the part of you that accepted less, tolerated lies, rationalized disrespect, you become immune to that kind of betrayal. Because now you know the shape of the lie. You know how it sounds when someone smiles while slipping a knife between your ribs. She left for a 6-week getaway with her boss, calling it just part of our open marriage. When she came back, all she found was a note and an empty house. And me? I didn't disappear. I simply stopped waiting to be seen.